Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education, a podcast that focuses on what is happening in education today, connecting everyone to the movers and shakers that are breaking boundaries in the education arena.
Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education. Jerry, I have a question for you. You were assistant superintendent. Did you never got your doctorate, did you?
Oh, Jamie, did
you think about it? We do have to go there, actually.
I am ABD. I have started 4 dissertations. I was so busy doing other things.
Yeah.
That I put it on the back burner. And it is a regret that I have, that I should have finished that up because I was so close, but
wow,
didn't do it.
But you're talking past tense. I don't think it's too late if you got that far, right?
It never probably isn't. I have looked into it a couple of times and it seems so price prohibitive at this point.
That's true.
But,
That's true. Well, we're going to be digging into this a little bit today. And I'm curious about some of the trends, if it's going up, going down, thesis trends. I'm really looking forward to it today.
Absolutely. Yes. So we have 2 guests with us, Tracy Mulvaney and Bill George, and they are the leaders at their university in the education leadership and counseling department, and they are mainly in the education leadership part. And so it will be interesting to hear what they have to say about the trends moving forward. So Tracy and Bill, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. And so tell us just a little bit about yourselves, where you are, and just a tiny bit about the work that you're doing. And I guess we'll go with ladies first, Tracy.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. So I am, like you said, Tracy Mulvaney. I am an associate professor in educational leadership. And I came to this position just recently. I was the assistant dean for the School of Education for the last 6 years. And I decided I'm ready. I'm ready to just really focus my efforts and energy into teaching and supporting doctoral students through their dissertation process. So, if you want to think about coming back, we're going to, we get them through. The dissertation process. But anyway, and I came
to talk.
Yeah. Through a long career in education as a special education teacher, as a principal, and then as a district level administrator for alternative programs in Arizona. So it's been great. I spent 30 years in Arizona and I came back home to New Jersey and I love it here. The educational systems are so amazing. It's so different that the taxpayers invest in it. I know it's a complaint, high taxes, but the investment is there in terms of educational return. And I get to work with awesome and cool people like Dr. George, who is the only other faculty in ed leadership and has become a very, very, very good friend.
And Tracy, that was a great segue for Bill.
Well, I'm excited to be here, Jerry. 34 plus years in education. Came to Monmouth as a full-time faculty member, assistant professor 2 years ago. But I've been an adjunct at Monmouth ever since I finished my doctorate in educational leadership many years ago. So more than 2 decades as an adjunct before becoming a full-time faculty member. And happy to spend my lunch with you today, because that's what it is for me. My lunch. I'm also an interim superintendent at Monmouth Ocean Educational Services. So I work with more than 200 school districts in the state of New Jersey, helping them with programs, services, but very, very honored and proud to work with Dr. Mulvaney and serve Monmouth in the role of educational leadership faculty member.
Yes, well, you are a busy man.
And that's retirement, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that what retirement is?
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I'm interested to start out with, how is enrollment? Are you seeing numbers the same, a decrease? What are you seeing?
So I do all the data analysis and stuff. Like I lead in the data and accreditation at Monmouth. So In the Ed Leadership Program, when we started the program in 2017, our goal was to get 12 students every year. And the first 2 years we had 24. We started with 24, 20 finished their classes. Same with the second year. Our third year, we went down a little bit, but during COVID, our numbers skyrocketed to in the 30s. And so we just graduated students that some of them had never stepped foot on campus until they received their diploma in August. Some of our higher ed track students. So the last 2 years it has been around 30, and then it's just Bill and I. We had a dean that was very engaged in our program that retired. And so we have less hands to do that work. And so we were very happy to enroll a class of 17, but we're already gearing up for next year's cohort. We interviewed someone last night. Bill's been interviewing people all along. So we do a lot of social media, brag about our students, brag about the dissertations, whoever's defending. And so people see, wow, they're really moving a lot of people along at Monmouth. So we get a lot of calls. So I believe now having said that, in Ed Leadership, in the doctoral program, we're doing great. In our teacher prep programs and across institution and nationally, the enrollment is going down in higher education. And because we're a private school and over 90% of our funding is tuition based, our enrollment can be great, but if it's not great everywhere, holding steady everywhere, then it impacts all of us. But we're very fortunate. We have really high caliber students that we have recruited and enrolled, and we're hoping to keep it around that 17 to 20 mark. But we'll see. Time will tell, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure that they're placed pretty quickly in positions that they want after they receive that doctorate, because it seems like there is a real push to get administrators into education now. Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, I think we are. We've had since 2017, 55 graduates. 86% of our graduates have finished the program. 100% of our students that completed all their coursework are through the proposal process, and 86% at graduation rate have graduated to this point. And with that, comes promotions. Our program, I think, is unique in the sense, two things that I think really make our program unique is, first of all, we have sitting superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, all forms of administrators, supervisors sitting next to teacher leaders. And I think the collaboration, it's a very collaborative environment. And we from the very beginning, Dr. Mulvaney was part of the implementation of this program, along with Dean Henning, as she pointed out. And they set it up where there was a teaching fellows or adjuncts, which I was at the time, sitting alongside with full-time faculty members and university administration dean, assistant dean, and Dr. Mulvaney at that time. That's what she was doing. So we were there from the very beginning. It was about creating a very authentic learning opportunity, right? So we wanted a traditional 5-chapter dissertation with the highest level of academic rigor. So when people graduated from this program, if higher ed was the track that they choose, that they were going to have every opportunity to do that. But the same thing, it was just as important for us for a design-based research, transformational leadership, a project that would give them the opportunity, and this is where it really connects to your question, Jerry, to create and implement meaningful, sustainable change in their districts and lead that research. So we connect that, that literature review research in chapter 2 and methodology with practical programs that are being implemented in schools that are having an impact on student success. I think that's why we have the high graduation rate we do, because educators, practitioners in the classroom, and administrators, probably very much like yourself, are connected with what they're doing for students every single day. So we tried to connect those two things with that work. Dr. Mulvaney at that time, as I said, as assistant dean, was, more than faculty. She was administration that was really got the program set up that way, along with Dean Henning. And it's been very successful with that model. And we really haven't changed that model at all, right, Trace?
Yeah, yep. Yeah. It's been really exciting because the students are actively working these transformative leadership or transformational leadership projects, and then they're studying them. And then providing that data to districts, and we're bringing a group of 6 students nationally to the AASA, the National Conference on Education. 6 of our students got selected. We got selected to do a presentation, and that's done through. We have a partnership with Ted Beal at Equitable, who has been very supportive of all of our leadership initiatives, and so he wanted to support our students and our doctoral candidates and our master's students through opportunities to implement impact change, and then share that information and data on, at a national and state, local level. So it's really cool. It's really fun to work with people in different kind of sectors. So that was fun.
That's fantastic. I mean, I see that there are so many different components to the success of your program, between the mentorships, the collaboration that's built in, the authentic impact projects that the students are actually embedded in and embedding into their district, right? It's not some isolated work that they're doing. It's something meaningful that's going to make an impact in their district. But also, you mentioned earlier, social media, leveraging social media. Do you think that also yields some of the success that you're seeing?
Bill and I will both say, without a doubt, 100%. I have to tell you, Jamie, I was at a presentation, my first year at Monmouth. I didn't know Bill and maybe it was my second year. I just knew him as a school partner with Monmouth, and he's like Mr. Monmouth, Bill's face is on the wall in one of our buildings. He's a alumni. He's like a celebrity. Yeah. Everybody knows Bill George. Yeah. But anyway, I was at a presentation that he was doing with 2 of our doctoral students, and it was during a leadership summit that who was Dr. Reagan, who was the program director at the time, he organized. And so Bill was one of the speakers, and they were talking about Twitter. And I'm like, in my mentality of Twitter, all my life was Twitter, who cares when when you walk your dog, and who cares when you, and now I'm first thing in the morning, looking at my Twitter. And I signed up for the account while he was presenting, and I became a prolific tweeter. I have a bunch of followers, a real bunch, not as many as Dr. George, but we use that as a tool for recruitment. We put all of our celebrations, successes on there, and I'll go places and people go. Last night, the girl that we interviewed said, "Oh, I follow you on Twitter." I'm like, kind of like a celebrity on Twitter.
Well, that's what made me think of the idea for this podcast, because you just are churning out all of these great, just highlighting what they're doing, celebrating their successes, and it's really motivating and exciting. So I can imagine that really helps with your recruitment, but also it really shows what a collaborative and, getting people who are hesitant, I think looking at how well you all work together and how it seems you are really true mentors in this process. And I think that might really help to alleviate some of that hesitancy that perhaps people have when they're trying to make that leap.
And Jamie, the work, the investment around the doctoral program, the significant financial investment, we feel a tremendous responsibility to our students to make sure that we get past that stigma of a doctoral work, which is ABD, as Jerry referred to earlier, so many students. So, and Dr. Mulvaney is a literal rock star in getting an authentic learning. I mean, her students, you not only publish in our program when you graduate and you finish the dissertation process, but our faculty members, particularly Dr. Mulvaney, really does a great job of getting our students published during that process. So when we can connect that to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of our accounts interconnected, and gives us the opportunity to celebrate our students, it ties back to what I said in the beginning. We're helping them, along with that transformational leadership project, build their brand, build their reputation based on their success, but most importantly, the student success with the partner districts that we work with, and they represent as educators that work for those districts. So, and nobody students publish more than Dr. Mulvaney. She's number one in that. I'd say that.
What are some of the thesis topics that you're seeing? Are there trends? Do you have to coax people into doing particular things? Do you have a lot of maybe leading questions that you use to get them to choose something? How does that whole process work?
Well, if I could just start, and I'm going to turn over to Dr. Mulvaney because she's the dissertation chair expert. Nobody's served on more than her. Nobody's done more than her. But what I'd say is I teach the first class coming into the program, which is program analysis. We start with a needs assessment, right? So we want to know two things. What are the needs in education and where's your passion? Because you're going to work your tail off here and you better love what you're doing or you're not going to finish. So, I mean, we really start with that. What's your need? We really love it when we can, take the district strategic plan, the needs of that district, most importantly, the needs of our students and the school community, and then we can add value through research. But I'll stop there and turn to Dr. Mulvaney because she'll take it to that next level on what we actually do with the research.
So thank you, Bill. So Bill sells himself a little short because that work starts long before they get in his class. And I was reminded of this last night on the interview, because part of the interview process is talking about you're going to have to do this transformational leadership project and a dissertation. That's going to be the basis of your dissertation. And Bill is like the best cheerleader ever. He can he gets the students so pumped during those interviews, and we both are, we're excited about it. I mean, we love what we do. I couldn't wait to get out of administration to come into faculty so that I could engage with the students more. And I was already engaging a lot, but this was even higher level. But last night, I was reminded, we start them on the process during the interview. Think about what you're passionate about. Look at what the needs of your district and in your particular role. And let's figure out what questions you have that are problem that you want to solve. And then when you come to us, we'll be like, let's roll up our sleeves and let's start on this. Let's get it going. And then our job is to provide the tools and the framework and the structure and the coaching to move them forward. And truly, what a gift is that, right? I mean, that we're able to do that. We've been in administration, and when you work with doctoral students, it's like teaching in fantasy world, because they really want to be there. They want, they have goals, they have aspirations, whether they're employment, whether they're just to be more educated or to do consulting. So that's that kind of stuff, like that planning happens during this process, during the interview process. Then bam, they get those classes when they start, and we hit, and we're working. And our program is designed as such to build on that throughout the program, which is why I think we have such a great success rate and graduation
rate. That question of what kind of problem do you want to solve? That is critical. I love that you asked that, because it really makes a difference. And so I'm going to ask you, what kind of problems are they trying to solve?
Oh,
What
that
are
was the question. Go ahead, Bill.
So just today, one of our students that Dr. Mulvaney and I are on their committee, she emails us this morning with her chapter 2 lit review. And so I think this is one of the things that really makes us special. Women in leadership was the topic. And to answer your question, we're seeing a lot around right now, social emotional learning, equity, all forms of equity as it relates to curriculum instruction. And so, a lot of topics around that. And where can equity go? Equity, going right down to emerging bilingual, point of entry students, which is such a hot topic right now, and making sure that we're with equity able to serve all of our students. Race and racism, all of these things and more. But today we get this email this morning. So one of our students sends us 25-page lit review at like 8 o'clock this morning. By 10 o'clock, I'm coming out of a meeting, I'm checking my emails. Dr. Mulvaney's already given her feedback. She's already, and this about the research question, and this about the purpose of the study. And I think it's that personalized approach that you get as part of a small private in the Northeast, right? I mean, we're in the Mecca, worldwide Mecca of higher ed, in the shadow of the Ivy League, right? So you better bring it. You better bring it every day. In a time when enrollment is really difficult, you got to bring it every day, all day. And that's the kind of personalized one-on-one approach you can expect to get in our leadership program. But those are some of the topics. Dr. Mulvaney, you might want to talk about more. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are pretty, like, we have a lot too that have to deal with issues and equity with special education, as well. A lot of personalized learning is happening, right? And also personalized professional development. So now I find myself being a little snotty when I go to one size fits all professional development. So I'm like, well, we know that this isn't the best practice because my student, because Christine McCoy said in her study, like, the research shows that, personalized learning works for students, but guess what? It works for us too. And so it's funny how, it really enhances who you are. It makes you a better professor, a better teacher, a better leader, a better person, just through that kind of experience in working with somebody else. And I think that's really, really critical. And the student that Bill was referring to, she started just this summer. She started in the summer. She wanted to get a head start on her classes. Our classes usually start in the fall. And she's written a 25-page chapter 2 already. And it was solid. But that same student was taking a class that had some internship hours for a certificate that she needed. And I was doing a writing to publish course, and I wanted to publish. I publish in that. Like, I just don't say, well, this is how you do it. It's like, we're doing it. So I pulled her in from another class, and I said, we have a group that is doing a book chapter or practitioner piece on women in leadership and on supports and issues and supports for women in superintendent roles or in executive leadership roles. And we pulled her right in, and she became a writing partner with students that's graduating right now. So, I mean, we have that ability, that flexibility to do that. And it's been really exciting for us.
That coaching and mentoring component that you are embedding in here is everything. And because you're leveraging social media to highlight that, people feel like, I'm not going to be in this alone. Like, I have a partner in this. And I love what you spoke about is that you're all learning from each other, which I think is so cool too. And you really kind of highlight that. Now, both of you have mentioned women in leadership. And our CEO, actually, Jerry, I don't know if you remember the article, he did send an article about the percentages of women versus men getting their going through a doctoral program. So what trends are you seeing nationally? Is it mimicked in Monmouth? What do you see, men versus women?
We have a much higher number of women in our program than men. And, For me, I think, we've been seeing that trend kind of increase. And when we first set out our program, we thought we were going to get principals coming to get their doctorate, to get their superintendents. But what we have now, and Bill had mentioned it earlier, we have an abundance of teacher leaders. And the teacher leaders want to go through the program, get their principal, get their superintendents, and they are wanting to, they want to fly. And so that's really important. So, I mean, I see us, when you look at the superintendent's studies that are, that AASA puts out every year, I think it was like we went from 24% in 2015 or 2010. I just read it as part of this paper, and I went back to the study and I sent it to her. And then to almost 27% in 10 years. That's it. That's all we've grown in terms of women in that position. But now I think, we're seeing just a lot more women in the role, in our programs who have those ambitions, but they talk about the things that women talk about as barriers. Well, I don't know if it's a good time because I'm getting, I might have a family, or we've had babies in our program. We've had people, and we're just like, we will give you the support that you need. If you need, if you need to, before we went remote, if you need to remote in, we'll remote you in with your baby in your arms. We will accommodate those things. And we'll meet with you, because we're out in the community a lot. Like I'm meeting somebody, one of my dissertation, someone I'm chairing his dissertation at his office tomorrow, because it's, I said, well, it's just on my way here and Mom is closed tomorrow. So we'll review this on, I'll just stop in your office. I mean, it's just, you go where the work is and you do it however you have to do it. And that's what our commitment is. And Bill, everybody we've had attached to the program has had this energy. All of our fellows, our faculty now that are, at first they were like, well, let's see how this goes. And only a couple faculty wanted to get on, really get engaged in the work. And now we have faculty who really are key to our success, because even if they haven't had P12 leadership roles, they have research expertise, they have foundational theory expertise. So those kind of, it's really helpful for us. And many of them do have leadership as well. So that's been helpful.
What ages are you seeing too? Because I know I've seen a trend lately where teachers are graduating from college, but then they're getting their master's right away. Whereas when I was younger, we would wait a little bit. And so that kind of like prolonged, then I'm getting into, that's part of the reason I didn't move. I actually just finished my master's a couple of years ago during COVID. I started 3 different programs and then got married. We started our family. And then it was all about my husband getting his 3 degrees. So it kind of shifted away and I just kind of lost touch, just had my family and kept moving. But I like the fact that people are getting their master's earlier. And are you seeing younger people in the doctoral programs as well?
Yes, students that come to us are typically younger now. And I think that's because they know that they need to continue to move on that salary guide by getting additional credits. Most salary guides, you move every 15 to 30 credits. So it really allows them the opportunity to increase their earning potential as well as future opportunities in advancement. So, Jamie, I think that's a good point. I think, when I was younger, the thought was that you teach for a very long time before you become a principal, but there's so much turnover in the workforce in general now, and particularly in education. And the fact that in education, it's not comparable pay scale to business. You've got the continued educational attainment and more degrees is key to your earning potential. So that's a good point.
And to add to that, you were asking about a trend. Another trend from when we went to college is the 5-year program. So higher ed is really, really bolstered, nationwide, the 5-year program. So you go for your 4 years, you do another 2 semesters and you're done. So you can come out now. And some people even earlier, if they go through summer school, if they go, But the 5-year program is huge. And the more certifications you have, obviously, and endorsements, the more employable you are. So we get to, we kind of get to not sell those things, but talk about them in an educated way to say, well, here's the data that we get from the state. And it says, if you have 3 or more certifications at Monmouth University, there's like a 99.9% chance you're getting a job when you leave.
I was wondering too, post-pandemic, I guess we are post-pandemic at this point. What are you seeing as the essential traits for a leader in a school district today? Has it changed? Is it different? Or
More patience.
Well, I was going to say, I'm on a school board too. But my school board is my significant other, who's a superintendent, is somebody said to him once.
Bernie, who was one of our first guests, Jerry. Bernie Braden.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so he would say, someone told him once, like, don't get too comfortable with the board, because boards can be fickle, and yours is just mine's just in remission right now. So my board's in remission. We're pretty well behaved and supportive of the superintendent.
Good.
But when you look at the political climate and the impact it has made on the aggression, and I feel like I can use that word and not be being
dramatic. No, it's
dramatic
not
about it, but the aggressive parental complaints and the aggressive movements towards school boards directed at superintendents by parents and even just political people that are very involved in politics who may or may not have kids in the school. And Bill, you might know that better too.
I think due to technology and social media and the strong political climate, as you pointed out, you have the army of a few who are not always rational, and they project themselves as if they're a much bigger opinion than they really are. And I find that is extreme, and misinformation, that because of social media and the political climate, so much is run by misinformation. And I felt like, I know that a lot of my colleagues are working very, very hard through newsletters, continuous connection, video. You mentioned Dr. Bragan. Dr. Bragan did a lot of video. He would do these walk around videos. A lot of my colleagues are doing this to try to get them an honest, a realistic, and factual sense of what's really happening in education, which can be very difficult because of the misinformation put out on social media.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, advocacy for your child, for your community, that is so important. But we also need to make sure that we are responding and not reacting, and that we're really getting the full picture, as you're talking about, before we make moves like that.
Yeah, not personalized, because they're not attacking, they're not attacking you as an individual. They're attacking whatever the policy, the procedure, sometimes I guess they could be attacking the leader, but I always am appreciative, even when parents would come in, when I was an administrator in P12 schools, they'd come in both guns blazing, just irate, and just like a child, you have to de-escalate it before you can have a conversation. And one way to always disarm them is to validate it. I'm so glad you came. If I didn't know about this, I need to get to the bottom of this. You're right. If this really happens, something needs to be done. And it seemed like when, with just those words, they would come, okay, we can talk about it. It's a skill and a challenge, and it's hard. We read a book in one of our classes, Leading Beyond the Ego, where you have to really check your ego. You have to check it. And it's really critical. And there are people, one of the things that I have seen in people who don't really succeed in leadership roles or really tough educational environments in general are people that just cannot, they just personalize it. And you just have to let it go. You have to just, you depersonalize the situation and just listen and deal with it. But it is tough right now. It's really tough, and it's wearing on a lot of lifelong administrators. who just, they're kind of post-pandemic or during the pandemic, we had so many retirements, and people just mic dropping it and hitting the door. And that's, I think, another reason you see a little bit of an increase in leadership enrollment, probably for some of that reason too. There's just more opportunities.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, well, I mean, this is fascinating. I really think, and the reason I asked the two of you on is because I see such a great momentum because of how you're leveraging social media. I get to see it all, and I get to see the celebrations of, the people who are getting through the program. And I just think it must be such a great motivator. I think what you guys have, this formula that you have, is really great for other schools to try to replicate. Oh, that rhymed. That was nice. But I think you have some really great tips here for other schools, because you guys are churning them out. And I think, great success rates you have.
Well, and that leads us to, how can people follow you on social media? Is it your personal accounts or the university account? What's the best way?
So we each have personal accounts. Mine is at my Twitter account is at Dr. Mulvaney, and my LinkedIn is Tracy Mulvaney. I mean, that's, really creative there, right? I was early on in the LinkedIn mode, so I probably need to change that, but I mean, it's pretty easy to remember. And then Bill runs a lot of the accounts. We tag each other, and high flyers or high tweeters on all of our tweets. But go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, Monmouth University has a School of Education account. We have an Ed Leadership account. My personal account is Dr. George _@MU for my Instagram. My Twitter account is Dr. George _MU as well. So we're always tweeting and retweeting each other, and and sharing on Instagram. And so and it really is about the opportunity just to celebrate the successes of our students. And I would say, for me, the greatest joy about all this is when I see a transformational leadership project based on a really important topic that was developed from a needs assessment, but from one of our students, come to fruition. And you could see their reputation growing because of student success that's happening in their district. That's when it really all comes together for us. That's when it's really fun. It's easy to work with Tracy, because if you don't bring the energy on any given day, don't worry. She's got enough for you.
It.
We definitely
all you got to
match.
do is, it's like a glow. All you got to do is close enough to feel the warmth, and it picks up the energy level, for me anyway.
Well, it's part of just loving what you do, right? Like, we're both super excited about it, and when we talk about it, anybody who asks, I'll drop anything, because it's so fun. And to your point, Bill, I think about, we had, and I'm going to use this as an example, and I'm going to use her name because she's just awesome, and she is coming with us to present. So when we go to the National Conference on Education, but Nicole Trainer has become quite a regional little expert on all of the SEL stuff, and she's with Long Branch Schools. And I remember her starting the program and being so shy, and she knew a lot about technology, Jamie, to the point of, where this is a lot of the talk should be really geared at technology. We're not doing a very good job. I'm not doing a very good job. But anyway, and she was really great, a teacher, but when she was around others, and I think this is something that a lot of us kind of deal with, is like a little, I don't know if she had the imposter syndrome, but I remember early in my career, I did. I remember, do I belong here? Am I able to stand on my own 2 feet? But Nicole, when I saw her do a presentation at a state conference, and I was like almost in tears, because like watching how much she has grown and her confidence. And we see that time and time again. And every time something happens, I get a text from her. Oh, that's so great that so-and-so is doing this. Like it's become a community. They all, like our graduates, our alumni, and our current students support each other. We use our former graduates now. They're sitting on doctoral dissertations. So we're like, it's just become this really nice community. And a lot of that has to do with social media. We can keep up with each other that way. But to see that growth and to see them tweeting out their successes, publications, their presentations they're doing based on their, I mean, they don't call us individually anymore because they're doing so many. They're like, oh yeah, I told you the first time I got accepted to a conference. Now it's just part of their, it's part of their shtick. They're doing them all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think you brought up a good point that, that imposter syndrome too. You probably see a lot of that, but I think with the growth that you're seeing in them, a lot of it's because of that community that you're building. And I think the two of you model really great camaraderie between the two of you. I think that makes a difference too.
A great example of a transformational leadership project, or going back to what you said about, the areas, and we did hit on a couple of them, but the example of how it can make such a difference in student success. Just before the pandemic, we were deeply involved in the work around Future Ready. And Dr. Mulvaney mentioned Christine Requay and Wendy Morales, who her work was real focused on global education, and Stephanie Anderson, whose work was on personalized learning. All of we had developed innovation teams in all of our schools through their work and the work that they were doing with their research and their transformational leadership projects. And when the pandemic hit and everyone had to switch on a weekend to virtual learning, we were so strongly positioned in Middletown because the work we were doing around Future Ready, because the work we were doing around their research, to really hit the ground running. And I think that's what a transformational leadership, I think that's what a higher ed partnership can really bring. That combination of university, design-based research, which in and of itself is just theory. But if we're working with teachers and administrators and the practitioners on a daily basis, and we're partners in this work, and whatever your districts need, whatever your strategic plan is suggesting, if we can get behind you and get behind that with the research and have the leaders, the practitioners that are leading the way with this design-based research, everything's possible,
Yeah.
I bet districts love it when they have someone in their district that's in your program.
I was going to say that. Absolutely.
Take them to a new level. Yes.
Well, we had several superintendents that went through our program. And now they're teaching in it. Yeah. So it's really cool. I mean, and in fact, we have the New Jersey State Superintendent of the Year was an alumni of our doctoral program, and now was teaching in our master's program, now teaches in our doctoral program.
Is that Dr. Salvatore?
No, well, he taught in our program before he switched institutions, but Dr. Smith, Will Smith. Wait, is that public now? Yeah, it's public.
Yeah, it's public. Dr. Will Smith, last week, Superintendent of the Year, after being Ocean County Superintendent of the Year for 3 years running. He's now the state Superintendent of the Year.
Yes, I heard about that.
His work around equity from a standpoint of rigorous coursework, AP coursework, and getting, doing away with the tracks and getting more students exposed to rigorous coursework and the impact that'll have on their ability to go on for future learning opportunities. It's just great work.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you're doing to absolutely, first and foremost, you're cultivating leaders, but really what's happening, and you pointed this out, Bill, is that there's this domino effect that kids are getting such great benefit from the work that your students are doing because of this impact. I mean,
it's
really
fantastic.
It is. It's so great. So great. So I'm really pleased with all of the tips and suggestions that you all have given for a really successful running of a doctoral program, because it's so upbeat. I love to see the posts. So it's so upbeat, and you get people over that hump, like the hump that Jerry's still over. I think maybe Jerry might become a Monmouth University.
Well, I will say she would not be the first transfer we had in. In fact, we have had several transfers, and the biggest reason that they give us is they don't feel they have the support. And when we interview them and we talk to them, they realize that they're going to get this support. And now we've had several completers who have said, I'm so glad I came to Monmouth. We're smallish, although we're pulling in, we're pulling in a good number of doctoral candidates, and we keep it at that place where if we feel like we can't give them what they need, then we need to make changes in either how many we accept or our capacity, building our own capacity. So, yeah.
Hey, Jerry, Jamie keeps pushing it back to you, but I don't know. I heard that Jamie just recently finished her master's, and, maybe we can get, a 2-for-1 thing kind of going here. You know what I'm saying?
We'll come in as a team.
Hey,
That's right.
And that maybe I'll get my book that I keep writing and not going anywhere. That can be part of this whole initiative.
There you
It can be
go.
my project. You're right.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
two things done at once.
That's your passion, Jamie. That's it, man.
There we
All
go.
right. You're right. All right, Jerry, we're going to dive in together
There we go.
like we do with everything else.
That's right.
We're like Thelma and Louise, aren't we?
We are.
Hey, teamwork it makes it so much better when you have someone who
It really does.
shares your
It really
passion and you
does.
guys work well together. And I'll tell you, we've been so fortunate in that our teams, we've always had, we're pretty selective too. Like we bring people on who we knew are going to bring great energy and support our students.
Right.
And if they don't support our students, we can't have them in our program. It's just that it's pretty simple, right? I mean, it's as simple as that. So,
Well, you two certainly set the bar high. That is
You
for
do.
sure. For sure. All
Well,
right.
it's been such a pleasure to visit with you today, and I'm going to head to Twitter and Instagram and start following you and,
great.
and knowing what Jamie is referring to. So thank you so much for being here, and keep doing the great work that you're doing.
Thank
you.
you.
Our
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you for listening. And if you would like to stay linked up, be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify, and subscribe to us on YouTube.